Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just someone who loves learning English, this podcast is for you.
So let's get started and make English simple and enjoyable together. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is odd. Then we will continue with to sneak and stick to, then a long way to go. And the final one is make a long story short.
Okay, Eric. Let's start with the first word.
The first word is odd.
Odd.
Odd. Odd has two main meanings. First, it can mean strange or unusual. Second, it can refer to numbers that can't be divided evenly by 2. We'll focus on the first meaning, strange or unusual. Now, let me give an example sentence. It was odd to see snow in summer.
Good example. It means that seeing snow in summer is strange or unusual because it doesn't normally snow in that season.
Exactly. Can you give us another example, Lisa?
Sure. Here's my example. The old house made odd noises at night.
Great one. It means that the noises from the old house were strange or unusual, probably a bit scary or unexpected.
Now, let's talk about how to use this word. Odd is an adjective, so we use it to describe nouns. We can say an odd person or an odd situation.
That's right. And remember, we don't change the form of odd. We don't say odder or oddest.
Good point, Eric. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our word odd.
Hey, Sarah, did you see that man with the purple hair?
Yes, I did. It looked a bit odd, didn't it?
I thought so too. And did you notice his odd shoes? One was red and one was blue.
Wow, that is odd. But you know what? I kind of like it when people dress in odd ways.
Really?
I guess it does make life more interesting.
Tom and Sarah used our word odd several times.
Yes, they did. Eric, have you ever seen someone dressed in an odd way?
Yes, I have. Once I saw a man wearing a suit made entirely of newspapers. It was very odd.
That does sound odd. Did you think it was funny or strange?
I think it was strange, but also creative. Have you ever done anything that others might think is odd, Lisa?
Well, I once dyed my hair green for a day. My friends thought it was very odd.
Green hair? That is odd. Did you like it?
Yes, I did. It was fun to do something odd for a change. Do you think you would ever do something odd like that?
Maybe. I think it's good to be a little odd sometimes. It makes life more fun.
I agree. Being odd can be a good thing. It means you're unique.
That's true. Well, that's all we have time for with our word odd. Let's move on to our next word.
Sounds good, Eric. I wonder if our next word will be as odd as this one.
Don't worry, it's not an odd word.
Okay, let's proceed then.
The next word is to sneak.
To sneak.
To sneak. When someone sneaks, they move quietly and secretly to avoid being noticed. Sneaking is usually done when someone wants to do something without others knowing or to surprise someone. For example, she tried to sneak into the house without waking up her parents.
This sentence means that she attempted to enter the house quietly and without waking her parents up.
That's true. Now, let's give another example sentence. He sneaked chocolates from the jar when no one was looking. This example shows that he enjoys taking chocolates secretly when no one is around to see.
That's right. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our word sneak.
Tommy, did you eat the cookies I baked for tomorrow?
No, Mom, I didn't touch them.
Are you sure? I saw you sneaking into the kitchen earlier.
Well, Okay, I sneaked in and took just one cookie. I'm sorry.
That was a nice dialogue, Eric. What do you think about Tommy's situation?
I think Tommy tried to hide that he took a cookie, but his mom caught him. It's not good to sneak around and then lie about it.
You're right. Have you ever sneaked somewhere, Eric?
Well, when I was a kid, I once sneaked downstairs to find out what there were.
What happened then?
Nothing. I fell asleep waiting, and my parents found me in the morning. What about you, Lisa? Have you ever sneaked somewhere?
Yes, I have. I once sneaked into my sister's room to borrow her sweater without asking.
Oh, did she find out?
Yes, she did, and she wasn't happy. I learned it's better to ask first than to sneak around.
That's a good lesson. I think our listeners can learn from this too.
Absolutely. Remember, listeners, to sneak means to move quietly and secretly, but it's usually better to be open and honest.
Well said, Lisa. We hope this explanation and conversation help our listeners understand and use the word sneak correctly.
Yes, and remember, it's okay to use this word when telling stories or playing games, but in real life, it's better not to sneak around.
Great point, Lisa. Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, please.
The next word is stick to.
Stick to.
Stick to is a phrasal verb. It means to continue doing something despite difficulties or to follow a plan or rule.
It's often used when talking about habits, decisions, or commitments.
That's true, Lisa. Let me give an example. I'm trying to stick to my diet, so I won't eat any chocolate today. It means that I'm making an effort to follow my diet plan and not break the rules.
Good example. Here's another one. You should stick to your study schedule if you want to pass the exam. It means that you should continue following your study plan without changing it.
Now, let's talk about how to use this phrase. We usually use stick to followed by a noun or a gerund, verb plus ing. For example, stick to the plan or stick to eating healthy.
That's a helpful tip, Eric. Let's hear a short dialogue using this phrase.
How's your New Year's resolution going, Tom?
It's hard to stick to my exercise plan, Mom. I often feel too tired after work.
I understand, but try to stick to it. Maybe you can exercise in the morning instead?
That's a good idea. I'll try to stick to morning workouts and see if it helps.
That was a nice dialogue, Lisa.
I think so, Eric. Now, let's talk about the dialogue. What do you think about Tom's situation?
I think Tom is having trouble keeping his New Year's resolution. It's not easy to stick to new habits.
You're right. Have you ever made a New Year's resolution, Eric?
Yes, I have. Last year, I decided to stick to reading one book every month.
That's interesting. Did you manage to stick to your plan?
Mostly, yes, but sometimes it was hard to find time to read. What about you, Lisa? Do you have any habits you try to stick to?
Well, I try to stick to drinking 6 glasses of water every day. It's good for health, but I often forget.
That's a good habit to have. How did you remind yourself to drink water?
I used a water bottle with marks on it. It helped me stick to my goal. Make a long, short story, I could not stick to it.
I see. It's important to stick to good habits.
Absolutely. Yes, and we encourage our listeners to stick to learning English. It takes time, but it's worth it.
Well said, Lisa.
Okay, let's move on to our next word. What's the next word, Eric?
The next word is a long way to go.
A long way to go.
A long way to go. It is an idiom. It means there's still a lot of work or progress to be made before reaching a goal.
That's right, Eric. It's used when someone needs to improve a lot or when a task will take a long time to finish.
Let me give an example. John is learning to play the guitar, but he has a long way to go before he can perform on stage. It means that John needs to practice a lot more before he's good enough to play in front of an audience.
Good example. Here's another one. Our team has a long way to go to win the championship. It means that our team needs to improve a lot and work hard to become good enough to win.
That's a good example, Lisa. Let's hear a short dialogue using this phrase.
How's your English study going, Sarah?
It's okay, but I have a long way to go before I can speak fluently.
Don't worry. Learning a language takes time. We all had a long way to go when we started.
Thanks, Tom. That makes me feel better.
I liked how they used the phrase twice. What do you think about Sarah's situation, Eric?
I think Sarah feels a bit worried about her English. She knows she needs to improve a lot.
Yes, that's right. But Tom is very kind. He tells Sarah not to worry. Do you think that's good advice?
I do. Learning takes time, and it's normal to feel like you have a long way to go when you start something new.
I agree. Have you ever felt like you had a long way to go with something, Eric?
Yes, I have. I had a long way to go when I started learning to cook. My first meals were not very good.
Oh, I can imagine. But now you're a good cook now, right?
I'm much better now, thanks. It just took time and practice. What about you, Lisa?
Well, I'm learning to play tennis. I still have a long way to go before I can play well, but I'm enjoying the process.
That's great, Lisa. Remember, it's okay to have a long way to go. The important thing is to keep trying and learning.
You're right, Eric. Thank you for that reminder. I think our listeners can learn from this too.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone has a long way to go when they start learning something new. It's part of the journey.
Okay, Eric. We have reached our last word today. What is the last word?
The last word is make a long story short.
Make a long story short.
Make a long story short. This idiom is used when you want to give the main point of a story without all the details. It means you are summarizing something to keep it brief. For example, I had a flat tire, missed the bus, and had to walk home. To make a long story short, it was a tough day.
It means that many things happened, but the main point is that it was a tough day.
Exactly. Here's another example. He lost his job, his car broke down, and to make a long story short, he had a lot of bad luck that week. This means that many bad things happened, but the main point is that he had a lot of bad luck.
Now, let's talk about how to use make a long story short in sentences. We usually use it at the beginning or in the middle of a sentence.
Additionally, sometimes people say long story short, which means the same thing. For example, long story short, we decided not to go on the trip.
Good point. Now, let's move on to a dialogue using the phrase make a long story short. The characters are Emma and Jake. They are talking in a cafe.
So, what happened yesterday?
Well, to make a long story short, I missed my flight and had to stay at the airport all night.
Oh no. Why did you miss your flight?
I was stuck in traffic for hours. I forgot my key at home. To make a long story short, it was a terrible day.
Now, let's have a casual conversation about the dialogue. Lisa, what do you think about the phrase make a long story short?
I think it's a very useful phrase. It helps you get to the main point quickly without telling every detail.
Yes, exactly. And in the dialogue, Emma and Jake used it to summarize a long story. Do you think using make a long story short makes their conversation clearer?
Definitely. It shows that they are giving the important part of the story without going into too many details. It makes the conversation more efficient.
I agree. It's especially helpful when you don't want to go into too many details. Do you know any other phrases that mean the same as make a long story short?
Yes, phrases like in short and to sum up have similar meanings. For example, in short, we missed the plane.
Good example. Okay, we have reached the end of today's episode. That's it for today's episode.
Thank you for listening to Simply Explained English. We hope you learned something new today.
Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos. See you next time.
Bye-bye.